WABI TV5 Bangor. For and from Eastern and Central Maine, this is WABI TV5 News at 11. We are your local news.
Tonight on TV5 News at 11, Mainers celebrate the birthday of Martin Luther King Jr. We'll take you to a celebration in Bangor. Plus, folks from Bangor return from a march on Washington. We'll get the details. And could there be hope for the workers at the troubled Great Northern paper mills? We'll have the story. Good evening. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Amy Erickson. Mainers gathered in Bangor tonight to honor the memory of Martin Luther King Jr. As TV5's Jennifer Colbus reports, an important part of the celebration was not only remembering the civil rights leader, but also upholding his teachings today.
Many of the folks who gathered at the Bangor Theological Seminary weren't even alive when Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated in 1968.
King says first, nonviolence involves resistance.
Some were very familiar with the history of King.
It's important for the people that are here today, because every opportunity we get to celebrate Dr. Martin Luther King's dream, we should take advantage of it.
But they all came to listen about the life and the teachings of the civil rights leader. University of Maine professor Doug Allen told the group about some of King's beliefs.
And we see it as an opportunity not just to celebrate King's life, but also to try to raise consciousness so people get a deeper sense of what King was about and how they can apply his philosophy and method today.
Martin Luther King is perhaps remembered most for his I Have a Dream speech, but it's his values about violence, or rather nonviolence, that are especially relevant today.
The war on terrorism especially raises concerns for many of these people who believe violence isn't the answer to the conflict with Iraq.
I'm very concerned with the way this country is turning. I think the values that I believe in as an American are under attack. I think people are afraid to speak what they feel because it might be opposed as against terrorism.
In fact, Professor Allen says King would suggest trying to form a friendship with the opposition.
King, towards the end of his life, always talks about the need to create the beloved community.
That had some thinking about the Great Northern paper workers who are out of a job right now and battling the corporate giant for overdue pay and benefits.
One idea that surfaced about what we might be able to do as a community to support that community, as well as the workers at Great Northern, is if there was some way for the community and the union to come together to save that mill, perhaps by creating some kind of a fund.
These are just some of the issues the world faces and Maine faces today that Martin Luther's teachings can be applied to. Tomorrow is not only about remembering the leader's birth or that he once fought to bring about change. It's also about upholding and delivering his message. Jennifer Colbus, WABI TV5 News, Bangor.
Help may be on the way to save Great Northern paper. Governor John Baldacci says the state is doing everything it can to help displaced workers. The company has filed for bankruptcy protection and has said that it will not resume production at its mills in Millinocket and East Millinocket. The governor says the plan could include either financing packages or possible buyers. A federal bankruptcy judge decided last week that the company may borrow another $1 million to finance the mills. That new borrowing package could keep the mills heated through early next month. The dozens of Mainers who went to the Peace March in Washington, D.C. returned home this morning. 11 busloads of Mainers packed up on Friday. Their goal, to oppose the war on Iraq, but many ended up discovering unity during their march.
One minute you'd be walking with the Hispanics, and the next minute you'd be walking with the Buddhist monks who were chanting and drumming. So you kept being swept into all different kinds of groups so that you realized how diverse this movement is and that we're all part of it.
That anti-war protest continued in Washington, D.C. today. It resulted in 16 arrests. Those arrests came as about 500 marchers coming from a rally outside the Justice Department near Lafayette Park and the White House, where another crowd of about 500 was gathered. Some demonstrators began running toward and over chest-high barricades enclosing the park. Police forced them down into the grass and handcuffed them. They were charged with misdemeanors and released. Top UN officials say some progress has been made in talks to win more Iraqi cooperation with weapons inspectors. The officials say Baghdad has reported finding 4 more empty chemical warheads, like a dozen others found last week. Talks in Baghdad resume tomorrow. Meanwhile, Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld says he would favor granting Saddam Hussein and senior Iraqi leaders immunity if they willingly go into exile. Rumsfeld tells ABC's This Week it would be preferable to war.